Big Questions with the Dead Milkmen.
Okay, gang, this week's question is from me, and it is, if you could change places with someone for a day to quote unquote walk in their shoes, so to speak, who would it be and why? And I opened it up pretty wide by saying it could be some current day person or it could be a historical person. I don't know. So since it's my question, I'll go first. And my person is named Brian Peter George St. John Le Baptiste de La Salle Eno, otherwise known as Brian Eno. Actually, I don't know where all those names got in his name. According to the Wikipedia, his birth name is actually just Brian Peter George Eno. But anyway, Eno is an interesting character. He is a record producer. He is a musician. He was in Roxy Music back in the day. He has released his own solo albums. He's worked with a lot of different people. He's worked with David Bowie, and he's worked with some other people that I really like Jon Hassel and Daniel Lanois. And he's worked with, there's that little Irish band called U2, I think. I think he's done a couple of things with them. Yeah, they're really tiny. But he sounds like an interesting character. One of the things that I've been following him for quite a while. He's a very interesting character because he went to school for visual art, so he is an artist. He works a lot with light and color. He went to art school, but he also studied experimental music. He's just a very interesting character. And I came across years ago when I worked at Borders Books and Music, the long lost bookstore. He released a book in 1995. I guess it was 1996 that it came out, because he wrote a book called A Year with Swollen Appendices, which is his first attempt at keeping a diary for a year. As he put it in the intro to the book, when he was a kid, he used to say, I'm going to keep a diary. And he always only got to like January 6th, and then he abandoned it. So
today I saw the cutest boy. His name is Bono.
That's right. So he actually was able to complete this diary. Now, 1995 is an interesting year because a couple of projects that he was working with a English band called James, but he also worked with a young fellow named David Bowie on a project that I think would become the album Outside. And it is during, here's a little side story, during this recording of this album for David Bowie Outside, the guitar player that was working with David Bowie at the time, his name's Reeves Gabrels, and he is an associate of people we know in Boston from a studio called Q Division. And we got word that Reeves played the Dead Milkmen song Lego My Ego to Brian Eno because he is mentioned in the song. And reports are that he enjoyed the song. So Brian Eno has heard the Dead Milkmen. At least that's what we were told. So I highly recommend you check out his music. I mean, he's credited with inventing the ambient music genre, so to speak. Music for airports is something you should check out. Check out any of the work that he's done with Jon Hassel and Daniel Lanois. So yeah, I think he's an interesting character. He has some interesting ideas, like things he said recently were, he likes new things. He likes to take software that comes out, new software and equipment and anything. And he likes to find ways to use that software, that equipment in ways that nobody else has done. He likes to experiment with things. So he's always testing himself, I guess is the way to put it, to see if he can come up with something different and new. And I kind of find that very fascinating. So
I'm going to reserve judgment on him until I read Chris Franz's book.
Yeah,
But I always wanted to make my own oblique strategy cards to just say, like, put some words on a card and sell them. Or I just like to make them from Joe, like stuff Joe says, like, can I have half your noodles or something like that? And I just think those would be good oblique strategy cards.
I made my own set too recently.
Yeah,
so.
I do love a lot of Eno's work, and I love his love of the DX7, which was, he was the only one out there cheerleading that thing. So does anybody have any thoughts on Eno?
I love Here Come the Warm Jets, and he produced the first Devo album too.
That's right. He's worked with Devo, Talking Heads, a bunch of different artists. I mean, he's always experimenting and doing different things. So
he sang background and played along on the Devo album, and then Devo pulled him down in the mix, and they were like, maybe we shouldn't have done that. Maybe it would have been, but I think he did a really good job with that.
Have you guys heard of the Portsmouth Symphonium?
Oh, where he gives people instruments
It was like a college project. It was like an amateur orchestra where everybody sort of didn't play were non-players, or were playing an instrument that they really didn't know how to do. And I think he produced like the first 2 or 3 records. They actually released records, and he played in the orchestra. So you can find that stuff on YouTube.
What is it called?
Portsmouth Symphonia. So
I would be like the Itzhak Perlman of that group, because I can't play anything. I would be like their soloist. I'd be like, bravo.
All right, I'm done.
Okay, I'm going to say that if I could walk in anybody's shoes, it would be the next person I instantly get pissed off at. And I think this would be a good way to learn, it's a word I'm looking for, compassion. I think this would be a really good way to learn compassion. For those of you not watching, but the other guys know, my anger, I go from 0 to 10, boom. And I think it would slow it down a little bit more if, like, the guy holding up the food line, if I could just be in his shoes for a little bit and maybe find out, hey, maybe he likes underground music too. Maybe he's not such a bad guy. I once heard a story of somebody talking about they had to work with somebody they didn't like. And they're like, I've got nothing. There's nothing I can find nice about that guy. They're saying, and the person says, him and his wife just adopted a special needs child. And the guy was like, it's like the Bears cartoon, Oh, Henry, it's Father's Day, where the guy feels like a heel. But I think if you could pop in, that you would just understand it. I think it should be, hopefully in the future, we'll have a device that does this and straightens your ass out. In other words, people walk by somebody that's poor and they go, oh, they're poor because they're lazy. Pop them in there for a little bit. Make them, the lazy poor person works 3 jobs for minimum wage and gets up earlier than the people who complain. People like me who look at people, religious people and think, oh, they're ignorant. Pop me in there for a little bit and let me find out, why they might be nice people. They might, they might like it because there's a philosophy of giving and it gives them something I don't have. You might see somebody in a pointy white hood and a matching white sheet. And I'm going to give you that one. Okay. Probably a racist. Don't pop in there. I'm not saying everybody has a redeeming quality, but we just have these archetypes. And it's just, I think if you popped in and you just learned a little bit about people, or just imagine, next time somebody's a jerk, say, imagine maybe this guy had a rough day. Maybe, not the best childhood. People get it reversed all the time. Every time you see a documentary about a serial killer, there's 50 people lined up to tell you what a nice guy he was. They can't believe it. They're like, I would never believe for 1 minute that he was, running around chopping the heads off of, ice cream men or whatever.
He was quiet. He kept to himself. He kept
he's quiet. Except for, here's the one thing, Dennis Rader, BTK, everybody thought he was an asshole. And so one time they got it right where nobody was surprised he's a serial killer. But I'm just saying, the next time I start to get angry at somebody, and we have folks, there's a song on the new album, which is kind of a self-own, where it's just me screaming about tiny little things people are doing and getting way more upset than I should. And that's kind of the idea. What I'm saying here is, if you pop into that person's life for a minute, you might understand, hey, the reason that they're digging around in their wallet for change to pay this, maybe they gave some money to a homeless person. You don't know what it is. So the thing is, if you did pop in 9 out of 10 times, you probably find out that they were a better person than you thought. And the 10th, well, that would be, would reassure your idea. Yeah, this person is an asshole. They didn't go through anything. But I'm willing to bet you, 9 out of 10 times you maybe find some common ground there. So that's what I'm hoping. Now here's the thing, you guys know me. It's going to be like 3 or 4 seconds before I get angry at something. So I'll just try that. Yeah.
No, keep doing what you're doing. Channel it into music. One way that I deal with my anger is like, especially something like you're talking about, like frustration behind someone in line or something. When I'm alone, I'll like act it out loud, like do different voices. Like I'll make what I think the person's voice would sound like, and then my own, or like make up another one that argues with them or something. And then it feels good. It's like over. It's like a closure.
You were the first person I've ever heard say that. And by that, I mean, call what I do music. I remember no one's ever said, no one's really, this is the first. I might be angry again.
Well, you have to know where to touch the key, right?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, Joe, it's your turn.
I want to trade places for a day with Hillary Clinton. She was first lady while Bill Clinton was president of the United States. She was a senator, I think 2-time senator, United States senator. She was Secretary of State for 4 years. She ran for president a couple times, most famously against Donald Trump, and lost, most recently. And why? Well, I would like to, I want to see what it's like to have a female brain. People say they're different. I don't know. So I'll know firsthand. Also, I wonder if when I trade places, I get to think like they do, right? That's the whole point. I'm not thinking like me in their shoes, because I wanted to see.
Joe, no one thinks
like that movie Being John Malkovich. Would Hillary know that she's been possessed by somebody for a little while? And what would happen to me during that same day? I have these questions.
I didn't give that much thought. It's like, will you retain the knowledge that you gained from walking?
Well, I'm hoping so, because the reason I want to be her is to retain that knowledge. I want to know what it's like to be a politician, to be female, to have the thoughts that she has. Does she have dark thoughts? Are there any secrets that she's keeping? Does she actually belong to a cult that eats babies? I hope not.
Wait, you hope not? You actually think she does?
Well, I hope not.
No, you say you hope not. Do you think she belongs to a cult?
Well, that I'll find out when I become her for a day, I guess.
You're saying you actually believe that's possible?
Anything's possible.
Wait a minute. No, it's not funny.
It's not possible.
That's crazy QAnon bullshit. You're actually saying that's possible.
I don't really think that's possible now. I don't think that she would get away with it for this long.
The show's not an outlet for QAnon bullshit, folks.
Okay. Well, I never said it was an outlet for bullshit. I'm just explaining my thought process.
It's pragmatic.
Yeah, and what it's like to be a millionaire because she has handlers. What it's like to have a security force around you at all times.
You have us. We're your security force.
We're like the guys that surround the bishop.
Also, no, I have a lot of respect for Hillary Clinton.
Your daughter would also run the Museum of Modern Art. There used to be a guy who had the sign that said, "No commies, no gays, no Chelseas," and he misspelled mama, and he misspelled it M-O-M-A. And we're like, oh no, Chelsea's running the Museum of Modern Art. And sorry to get snobby with you, Joe. I just really can't take that QAnon bullshit. So I stomp it down whenever I see it.
All right. Bad joke. I'm sorry.
Yeah. If you know some asshole, Joe, who believes in that, please put your foot up in him.
We could talk about flat earth theory too, because that'll get me a little steamed. Or maybe not. Are you done, Joe? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
I'm done.
So I was thinking, I'm kind of like cheating on this, I guess, but I was gonna ask if I could have 3 days, but it would be 3 different people, because I'm really curious what it's like to be each of my kids, and especially now with, you know, how the pandemic is still kind of lingering, and how that affects like their social life, how they ingest culture. And they're different ages, you know, they're 15, 13, and 10. So they're all kind of almost, you know, all teenagers. So when I think back to how I was at each of those ages, I think, you know, no cell phones, no internet, all that stuff. And it makes quite an impact on the world when you have those things now. So, yeah, my backup answer was Crispin Glover, because I just want to understand why he's so weird. I just think he's cool, because he just doesn't seem to give a fuck and just is as weird as he wants to be. I mean, unless it's a whole, you know, unless it's a thing to get publicity, but he doesn't get much. And I like that he sued the Back to the Future franchise. Although I like the movies, I'm glad that he sued them, because they, in the second one, they used his likeness, which if you look at it, doesn't really look like him or sound like him, which is, you know, it's messed up. He didn't want to do the movie, so they're like, oh, let's get someone that looks like him and hang him upside down in the scene that he's in.
We should get him on the show. We should see if we can get him on the show. That'd be really good.
Doesn't Kelly know him?
We might know somebody that knows him.
I'm sure we know somebody who knows.
Yeah, we don't know any celebrities, or as I like to say, everybody we know is a celebrity.
Wasn't his record on Enigma? His album he did was on Enigma, I think, right?
I had the tape because I was at this college music seminar, and this weird guy comes over, I want to have my tape, and I had it for years, and then finally somebody's playing something. I'm like, wait a minute, I think I have, and I dug it out, and that was apparently Crispin Glover. It was just walking around handing out the tapes. Yeah, I didn't recognize him.
So yeah, that my answer. Yeah, I'm curious about what the kids are going through in general, but especially like in this day and age, you know. And I got scared the other day because I realized my oldest will be able to vote in the next election.
Oh, in 2024, yeah.
That scares you?
Only thing that scares me is trying to figure out who's going to be up against.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to vote. Hillary's going to eat him. Haven't you heard?
He's not a baby anymore. Geez.
Well, you know, he's just older. She's. Joe's got to know. Joe's got to know some nutbag and tell me.
You know, I was curious.
We got to really plumb the depths on that one.
I do this
and
a lot.
If you're Joe's nutbag friend, comments
with the questions. I do this a lot too, where I like fantasize about alternate parts of the question. Where I'm like, so if I was in somebody's shoes, would everything I did that day affect the rest of their life? Like somebody would be like, hey, that day that you were acting weird, and I don't remember that.
Yeah, I was wondering that too.
Yeah, there's a lot of rules to this we're not really exploring. Yeah.
It's just sitting on the person's shoulder, kind of watching.
Yeah, like a Freaky Friday kind of thing. Is it? Yeah. Because I don't want to be in their shoes if it's me there, because that's just me with their outward thing. But if it's me in their head, then am I just observing everything and unable to control anything?
I just got an idea for a big question. Choose 2 people to switch places. Like say Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, like if they switch. Now we're getting into like the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
Body switch movies.
Yeah.
Face Off.
No. Freaky, the remake I was talking about on here of Freaky Friday, but with serial killer. It's really good.
What about the one with Fred Savage? That one was.
No, those don't count.
Who was the other person?
There's the one with George Burns, 18 again. There's too many.
Oh, Judge Reinhold was the adult in that movie.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Let's do recommendations.
Are we moving on to recommendations? We are moving on to recommendations now, folks. My recommendation this week is it's more like a dare. I dare you to try and watch this. It's a YouTube video. It's 46 minutes and 33 seconds long. The title of this video is The Ultimate Love Boat Intro, Every Guest Star Almost Intro. It's like a supercut of all the people who have starred or guest starred on the Love Boat. You know how they had that like little intro circle and they had the person going.
Yeah.
And it's every single one of them. And now they says almost. I'm not sure who they missed. I actually wanted to ask, maybe Rodney would know the answer to this.
Yeah.
I seem to remember hearing about, or maybe I'm just
Andy Warhol.
This. Yeah, Andy Warhol.
I knew that was coming. Yes, Andy Warhol was a guest on the Love Boat. He was then invited to the 100th. They had a 100th episode of the Love Boat, and they held a big party. And Andy Warhol noticed that many of the people who appeared on the Love Boat died, and and he said, "Wow, it's like the Death Boat." And then he died later. But also Gavin. I forget the man's name. Reagan made him ambassador to Mexico because Reagan saw him on the Love Boat. He saw him on the Love Boat and made him ambassador to Mexico. So Love Boat is your stepping stone. And Fred Grandy was actually, he became a congressman. He was Gopher, and apparently he graduated magna cum laude from Harvard. There's a lot of weirdness to the Love Boat.
Yeah, so they are alphabetical, and I actually advanced through, and I did not see Andy Warhol in there, and I seem to remember that he was a guest star, so I don't know what happened. Somehow they didn't get that one. But anyway.
He wasn't involved in a romantic
I highly recommend, I mean, I watched a good portion of it on double speed, so there you go. You can watch it on double speed and get it done in half the time. That's my recommendation dare this week.
Okay. All right. My recommendation this week is the Yamaha DX11, which from 1988, which I had for many, many years. And then I was on this show and I started talking about how stupidly tossed mine into an audience at the first show we played when we got back together at Fun Fest, and it disappeared into the crowd and was destroyed. And I talked about it here, and a viewer named Larry saw it. He lives in Philly, and he was like, I was walking down the street, he's like, "Hey, the DX7, DX11." I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "I have one if you want it." So I took the donut, which I rarely if ever do, went up, picked it up, and it's going to need a replacement battery, which most people would be upset about having to replace the internal battery. Not me. I'm looking forward to doing it. I've sent away for the type of battery, the holder, which is what's called a coin holder. I'll solder it in, and then this will be, I mean, it's great now. You just got to make some adjustments because the internal battery has died, but I will have it all fired up, hopefully, maybe next weekend if stuff arrives in time, and that'll be great. So, but the great thing about this is, if you remember the song Anderson, Wakeman, Buttholes, and How, Anderson, Walkman, Buttholes, and How, and all those, all the weird sounds, those are all presets in the D section, and those are all on here. So we have that back, and I save everything. So I have all my old patches, and now also you can load it from the computer. So this is just such a sexy synth, and I love the action on these. It weighs about 15 pounds. It is really heavy. It probably weighs about 3 times of what I drag to the studio and to practice now. So thank you, Larry. I'm really glad to have this thing in my life, and I got it last night, and I'm super ecstatic. So. All right, so the other thing that I'm going to recommend is I've recommended a couple of things on Tubi now, which is like free TV. Tubi has a series called Great Greek Myths, and they have the Iliad and the Odyssey. These are about 10 each, little half-hour episodes, so 5-hour things each. One for the Iliad, one for the Odyssey. They're fantastic. I find, for me, what's comforting is like Greek mythology. So I really, like I say, big fan of I don't know why I find them comforting, considering how violent they are, but I really love the Iliad and Odyssey. These are really well done with high-class animation. They also incorporate into that both classical art, so you see the famous Mask of Agamemnon, and they have Klimt's Athena, which I can't be the only one that knows this. You know Gillian Anderson from the X-Files? It looks just like her. I'll send it over. You put a picture of her next to Klimt's Athena, it's Gillian Anderson. And the one thing I didn't like, and I know I'm straying into a weird territory here, they do show Cy Tumbly's stuff from his 50 Days at Iliam, which we have here at the Art Museum. And I love modern art. I love abstract art. I'm also, as I said, big fan of modern art. The guys will tell you I had a chubby the whole time we were in the Warhol Museum, or Love Boat guest Andy Warhol. But Cy Tubney, I consider his 50 Days at Iliam to be kind of lazy and not good. And if you look it up, it looks like this. So for those of you who are fans of my recreation of famous artwork, this is pretty much what Cy Tubney's 50 Days at Iliam looks like. It's not good by my standards. So I'm glad I got that off my chest. Thanks a lot, guys. So yeah, that's my recommendations are the Yamaha DX7 if you can get your hands on one.
11.
What?
11, DX11.
I said
You said 7.
I said 7 earlier, I know, but I said DX11. I hang out the 7-Eleven. And and of course the on Tubi, the Great Greek Miss. Yeah, I keep saying 7 because you had me talking about Eno earlier, who loves DX7s. But this is a DX11. What's that?
That's the Korg micro sampler.
Well, the Korg micro sampler is good, but is it as heavy as the DX11?
No, it's not.
Like the jam box.
This is like made of plastic.
Yeah, these are old-fashioned heavy metal.
I'd like to recommend an album that just came out on the Already Dead label, and it's called Tranquility of the Infinite. The band is called Boundless Relaxation, and full disclosure, I play guitar on it. It's 8 tracks of, I would say, ambient style, ambient music with spoken word over top of it. And the other players are on vocals, Samuel Locke Ward, and on synth is Dan Butler, 2 people that I've known for years and have gone on tour with. We recorded it virtually this past summer, and then we filmed a video for it, and a friend of Sam's put together some videos from our footage so that each song has its own video. So it comes out tomorrow, which will be yesterday if you see this on Saturday, on cassette, tape, MP3, and VHS.
VHS, wow.
Yes.
Now this band eats babies, right? I'm not saying they do eat babies. I'm just saying I'd like to know whether or not they eat babies.
Who?
Well, the VCR eat the tapes.
Yeah, if you have a VCR, you can watch it on VHS. But if you have YouTube, you can watch the whole thing on YouTube as well. So,
That's pretty cool.
there you have it.
There you have it.
I still have a working VHS player.
Hi, the monkeys. Oh.
They played their last show the other night.
Oh.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I would recommend that everybody listening and watching, make sure you take some time to have some compassion for yourself, because sometimes we are busy having compassion for other people, and then we beat ourselves up if we don't do something right or whatever. But what I've learned is, talk to yourself either out loud or in your head like you're talking to a friend, and you wouldn't be disrespectful to a friend. So talk to yourself in a positive way, because you should be your own best friend. You're going to be with yourself a long time. And I would also recommend before it gets too cold for people watching in our latitude, get out in the woods and find some mushrooms and weird plants to look at, because
Don't eat the mushrooms, no.
Regular mushrooms. Why you
Unless you know what you're doing.
That's Rodney's international sign for any kind of illicit.
For mushrooms.
Even you could chew on the stem.
You can just go to the grocery store and see mushrooms. I mean, they'll display them for you.
Yeah, but they're already,
they're poisonous. Seems like it. Or if you take mushrooms and go to the grocery store, you might think you're in the world.
What's cool is like a lot of fallen trees have just these like rows and rows of mushrooms, like the ones that grow like the turkey tails and stuff that grow out the side, like shelf style. I always get like a interestingly eerie feeling when I see like tons of mushrooms. Like I think maybe they're slowly taking over the planet.
With insects.
and monkeys. That was an interesting show.
Yeah, that's an interesting word to use.